We have an art show every single year called Something Red in Salem, Oregon, that features the color red in your art. So this year I decided to do something different, which is a color wheel, and I did this in aluminum, 12 pieces on the Tormac PC NC 1100 machine that I have. I started out with TurboCAD and designed the 12 pieces and the colors that I'm going to use and the keywords I'm going to put into each segment. I then imported the design into Mastercam and got the basic dimensions in place and put in the words that I'm going to use. Unfortunately, TurboCAD lettering and Mastercam didn't quite mesh. After completing the design, I then started the routing using 4 tools, a 4mm, a 1/8 inch, a 1/2 inch, and a 5/64 inch end mill. And I did it roughly. I didn't have to worry about final finish because I wanted this to be artsy. I then did the final simulation just to make sure that everything looks okay, and everything looked pretty decent. So for the first setup, we have to glue a piece of aluminum onto the board, and that will hold the aluminum while I'm milling. But the trick I learned is that I use Gorilla Glue, which is extremely strong, but it foams, and it's good for doing metal to something else. So I use a piece of PVC type of material that's used for decking as my base. It doesn't swell when it gets wet, and it's pretty flat. I then put my Gorilla Glue, my aluminum, and then I put my vise on top of that. And the vise is the weight that's used to do the clamping. So this is an 80-pound vise, not light. And I use 2 aluminum blocks and there's my piece of aluminum. Now I had ruined my original piece, so what this was is this is an old piece of scrap aluminum that I had. It just happens to be the right dimensions, and I'm going to use this to do my workup. So this is what I'm going to be milling on this shop. The X and Y and Z axes to a template that I had made, and I do that by just jogging it very slowly. The axes until everything looks about right. And then I'll do the other axis. Okay, and that looks about right for X and Y. So now I pull this piece of paper out. And I'm going to lower the Z-axis. I'm going to use this as a reference paper. And I keep going now until I can't move the paper anymore. Once I have that, then I know that the Z-axis is set to 0 right there. And I tell the computer X, Y, and Z are now set up. And now I'm ready to begin milling. So I got to change the bit, and I'll see you in a few minutes. And we also turn on flood cooling. This will keep the bit cool and get the chips out of the way, as well as do some lubrication. I gotta put the shield on, otherwise you'll get splashed. So approximately 2 hours from now, this particular piece should be cut out. All right, now about 2.5 hours later, this is the final result. All the material is milled out, and it is getting ready to be painted. So what I'm going to do next is, this is the last one, the 12th of the project. I need to paint this with a primer, so I'm going to do that in the gray primer, wait a couple hours for that to dry, and then I'm going to use the oil paints that I have over here and paint. Okay, and this is after I painted the primer on there. They are this gray color. I'll give it about 2 hours to dry out, and then I can start painting my oils on top of this. Okay, after the first round of painting, well, actually this is the last of the 4. We have sort of yellow-green, we have orange, we have red-orange, and yellow-orange. So, interesting colors. We'll see what happens. So the next point is we bake them. And you have to have a wife that really loves you and will let you do something in the kitchen that you wouldn't really normally do. But we're going to bake them twice. The first time we're going to bake them, we'll get the basic drying. Then the second time we're going to bake them, we'll hopefully solidify it. Now, I'm not going to put any more color on because this is just a generic thing. And then the next thing I'm going to do, you'll see, will be scraping off all of the paint here with sandpaper, so it will show up as aluminum against the color. Hopefully that will work out pretty good.